past 2 years, Jocko Fuel has been the only supplement I've consumed. It's helped me stay in shape now that my competitive career is finished. If you've been waiting to try Jocko, the wait is over. Jocko has now teamed with Walmart, bringing clean fuel to the entire nation. Jocko Fuel is loaded with all the good stuff and none of the bad. And I'm talking no added sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and absolutely no gray area or banned substances. Just pure, clean fuel to power your performances. Jocko Fuel is now available in Walmart nationwide. Products available at your local Walmart are Jocko Malt, ready to drink, Jocko Malt powder, and Jocko pre-workout. How convenient. Guys, the time is now. Consider trying some of my favorites like Jocko Go and Jocko Hydrate. You can even do it online. Use code Chael30 at JockoFuel.com or just stop by your local Walmart and get your hands on some Jocko ASAP. Don't wait, might not last. Fuel up with Jocko Fuel and crush your goals. Now there's no excuse for not having clean fuel. Guys, I want you to go get Jocko Fuel today at Walmart. Islam Makhachev. Guys, I could back you up 2 years. That's not very long ago. Islam Makhachev is not world champion. Ali, the most creative manager in the history of our sport, didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to do. I talked to him in private a number of times, said, Chael, I've got the best guy in the world. Winning and beating everybody is not our issue with this guy. I can't get him the opportunity to show that he's the best fighter in the world. And you're not just going to get a world title fight. Your name's got to be big enough. One thing that goes into a title fight that for some reason people don't like to talk about, I think they think it makes the sport look bad, but it doesn't at all. It is extremely true. You must have the mandate of the masses. You just have to have a record and a resume. You can't go out and you're just great at doing interviews. It's not like that. You have to have the mandate of the masses. You have to have the people saying that's the guy. In this sport, because there is not a competitive architecture known as a straight line bracket, in this sport, you've got to be risen up. And 2 years ago, Ali would have to spend all of his time with Islam. So it wasn't in the practice where, hey, let's fix this. Hey, let's work on this. Hey, let's get your finish rate up. Hey, let's get you on the weights and get a little stronger. Like every other manager and coach with every single athlete there is, it wasn't Ali's problem. Ali said, I already know who the best is. But I can't get him the opportunity to prove it. And I tell you that because it was true. It wasn't just how Ali was feeling or what Islam was up against. It was true. I remember as Ali stood there and he's preaching Islam to me. I remember in one ear and out the next. And I'm thinking, man, people don't want to see that guy fight. That weight class, largely because of Conor McGregor, but Eddie Alvarez certainly did his part for it as well, was a real BJ Penn certainly gets credit for it as well. Sean Shirk, Frankie Edgar. I mean, it was one of these divisions that people are really watching. They're really studying it. Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, right? There were some of these guys that didn't necessarily have all the height and size, but boy, were they special. And they could move the needle in a division that otherwise hadn't been moved. And you look at it from that perspective, because now, right, I don't look up to guys that are younger than me. That would never happen. I would never call a guy younger than me sir or mister. But I gotta tell you, my own respect, and that's a weird word. We use that one sometimes, but we don't mean it very much. It's a very weird word. My own respect of Islam is so different now. I'm not convinced he's not the greatest. And I'm talking about pound for pound overall. That's an interesting debate between he and Jon. It's even a fun debate to break down sometimes. My larger point is, boy, did he turn that in 2 years. And if I were to tell you Islam is going to become a star, Islam is going to become the #1 fighter in the world. He's going to surpass Jon Jones in the media's eyes, in Dana White's eyes, in your eyes. And then I tell you how he's going to do it. He's going to beat Money Moicano. You're not buying that. You're not buying that. You're not going to be impressed that he beats Moicano. You're not going to understand how Moicano got in that spot in the first place. You're not going to understand how somebody with his ranking who's got another fight which isn't a pay-per-view main event. In fact, it's not even scheduled for 5 rounds, is going to be in there with Islam Makhachev. You're not going to understand it. Islam himself, who drives around all day, walks around all day, lays in bed every single night, and he's thinking of different possible scenarios. And fighters will do that to a very strange degree. We're tied. It's 2 rounds for him, and it's 2 rounds for me. But my nose is broken. Some fighters will be out there fighting, they'll close one eye. They'll close one eye right there in practice, envisioning what happens if I'm in a fight and this eye gets hit and it swells and it closes and I have to win anyway. What if I'm in a spot like Alex Pereira where I'm down 4 rounds, I got 5 minutes, I must shut this guy off. And there would never be a time in all of that visioning, imagining, there would never be a time where Islam Makhachev would think he's going to be in there with Moicano. There's never a time that Islam's going to think, what if I am a favorite 10-1 over my opponent? He's never going to find himself in that spot. But it's what happened. He had no footage, he had no tape, he had no study. And he accepted that fight. I assure you, he didn't know if Moicano was orthodox or southpaw when he answered that phone and said, brother, I fight anybody. I assure you, he put on a face and came out for his team and for all of you to see. But inside, go, man, what do I get if I do win? What praise do I get if I do win? This isn't the guy. This isn't the top guy. This isn't the number 1 contender. This guy wasn't even in a title elimination bout. And he ended up getting everything. He ended up getting the nod by Dana White that he is, in fact, the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. And the thing that Dana White was able to take into consideration, and the same thing that I and you, even subconsciously, are taking into consideration, is understanding that it's easy when people believe in you. It's easy when people look at you with revelation because they see what you're up against and you're showing the courage to go out and try. But it's really hard when you're a 10-1 favorite. It's really hard taking on a guy that wasn't the guy. It's really hard competing with somebody who has absolutely nothing to lose when you have everything on the line. Your record, your reputation, your legacy, all of it is on the line. And nothing, he's got to put up nothing. Do you know how hard that is? Do you know how few of fighters would accept that position? I believe if Jon Jones was here right now and you just presented him with it, that Jon would tell you, no, I would not have accepted that position. I mean, Jon just fought Stipe. Who was ranked number 8 in the world the night that Jon fought Stipe? I don't know who it is, but who? That would have been maybe an Almeida, maybe a Curtis Blades. I think if you just asked Jon real fairly, hey, one day before, would have you gone there and fought somebody that you were a 10-1 favorite to beat? Of course not. It puts you in too weird of a spot. What's that guy got to risk? How did he earn this spot? The answer is no. Nobody would have questioned that. Islam said yes. It's the second time I've seen this happen. First time is when Pat Cummins, who's tougher than all hell, but he's a barista at the time, wasn't even a full-time fighter, gets a fight against Daniel Cormier. And Daniel Cormier done everything that you could do, but he just couldn't fight for a world title. He just wasn't the guy. So now you put him in a spot with somebody that's not even ranked, doesn't even have a record. He's 0-0. Pat Cummins making his debut. What can Daniel possibly get from that? Everything. He became the number 1 contender that night. Because of the position that he was in, everything that he risked, and how little he had to gain. Turned out, that little gain, that little promise of nothing ended up being the whole house. And that same thing just happened with Islam. What appeared to be his opponent is risking nothing, and Islam has nothing to gain. He comes out the other side, just like Cormier did. And he now has everything. There was only one title out there. There's only one title that Islam didn't go take. And that was pound for pound, greatest fighter of today. And beating Money Moicano and accepting that fight. And look at as good and dominant as he did when he did it, he ends up with everything. It really is a fascinating concept. But for fellow fighters out there that are sitting back thinking, well, it has to make sense. Somebody calls you and you say, oh, I don't want to fight that guy, or he's ranked this, or I beat him, who beat him, and it does nothing for me. I know that you think that. You can't quit thinking it. There is nothing on Friday of last week that you could tell me Islam would have to gain by beating Moicano? Nothing. According to your math, it wasn't a ranking, it wasn't a money issue. There was no title on the line. That's what you would have thought. But coming out of it, Monday morning's news today, Islam moves up from number 2. He moves up to number 1. What so many fighters use to turn fights down, I have nowhere to go. He's ranked number 9 and I'm ranked number 4. It doesn't help me. Islam was ranked number 2. He took on number 8. He moved up to number 1. Keep that in mind. Please don't tell us what makes sense. When your phone rings from somebody on the second floor at the Ultimate Fighting Championships and they tell you a suggestion, they've already done the math. The suggestion will always make sense.